Welcome back. Segment number 3. I'm Jennifer Fierro, your broad podcaster here in the Highland Lakes with Art Dlugach, the voice of the Llano Yellow Jackets. We just want to make sure you know, if you want your Highland Lakes sports news, please go to TexasChalkTalk.com. That's where you'll find all of that. Art and I are going to spend this last segment.
And also, let me interrupt, you can go to the Llano News to read Jennifer Fierro, something that just recently happened. She won't say that she's now the sports editor, but she is. Congratulations on that post, whatever you want to call it. You can also read me in the Horseshoe Bay Beacon, but this is more about Jennifer. Outstanding job for you and a great acquisition for the Llano News, with whom I have worked for the last 15 years.
And that's what I was going to say. Try following this guy in that job over there at the Llano News. They always say in sports, you don't want to be the person to replace the legend. You want to be the person who replaced the person who replaced the legend. So here we go. We'll see if I can deliver half of what this guy was able to deliver in Llano.
Believe me, she's going to do great. Really.
Okay. Let's really talk about the Big 12, Pac-12 merger that was talked about between officials at both conferences that didn't happen. And again, this is a report that broke on Monday or Tuesday. So let me summarize what I understand here. There were 2 or 3 possible scenarios that the Pac-12 officials wanted to go through. The Big 12 was uninterested in doing anything except for a merger. When they got the report that I read anyway, led me to believe this. When the numbers from the TV partners came back about how much money would be distributed if there was a merger that happened, the Big 12 did not like the numbers that they were presented. So both sides ended up walking away. Now, who walked away first? That really depends on which conference you believe. So, in essence, here's what I think. I think that was detrimental to the Pac-12. I do think the Big 12 saw an opportunity where they can add 4 teams, especially in the next couple of years, because here's the deal. We know that USC and UCLA are going to go to the Big 10 for July 2024 for the 2024-2025 school year. That means then that if the Big 12 can add the 4 schools that have already been talked about, and for the record, the 2 schools that they really want are the Arizona schools because they like the Phoenix television sets or the number of Phoenix television sets in that market.
Phoenix and Tucson. Okay.
So that's the 2 they really want. It sounds like they'll take Utah and Colorado because geographically that's what makes sense for them. Okay? But at that point, if they can get to 16 teams, meaning I think that if they could bring in those 4 teams into the conference for the 24-25 academic year, I think the Big 12 may be more likely to take less money to allow UT and OU to leave for the SEC for the 24-25 school year.
And
that is my opinion.
This 16 number, just to interject here, the 8 teams left after Texas, Oklahoma, plus the 4 who are coming in. I like them. I've said that since the beginning. If I didn't want to lose Texas and Oklahoma, but if the Big 12 had to go out and get 4 schools, Cincinnati, Central Florida, Houston, and Brigham Young, and they will be on board in 1 year. So that's 8 plus 4 schools from the Big 12 that Jennifer will get into as potential future Big 12 teams also. 16, a tidy number to 18 divisions.
Yes. So in that sense, that's what I'm thinking. I do believe all of this will happen for the 24-25 school year. We'll see what the Big 12 looks like. But in the end, that means the Pac-12 goes away. If those 4 teams leave the Pac-12, because right now, by all projections, they're a 10-team conference for the 24-25 school year, I do think that schools are going to start looking out for themselves. And to me, this is a game of musical chairs. Do you want to be the school that doesn't have a place to sit? And that's where we are now.
There's not much music going on in Pac-12 circles, I'll assure you, seeming like they've been wounded a lot more with losing USC, UCLA, than the Big 12 has been in losing two quality schools that really draws in the TV viewers, Texas and Oklahoma.
Well, there's no doubt. The LA market is the nation's largest television market. So when you lose two teams like that, that's going to hurt you. But let's throw a wrench out. Let's talk about something else that you and I talked about privately. Here is what the Pac-12 schools face that most of the Big 12 teams and a lot of the SEC teams and most of the Big 10 teams do not face. Okay, so here it is. A lot of the Pac-12 teams are in cities that have professional sports. LA has two Major League Baseball teams, two NBA teams, two NFL teams. So where are
two NHL teams too.
Okay, so if you are
the Kings and the Ducks.
So if you are living in LA, you have numerous choices. I feel that Phoenix, Tucson can say the same thing too with the Cardinals and
the Suns,
and then their NHL team,
and the Coyotes,
and the Diamondbacks of Major League Baseball. You don't see that. Austin doesn't have that issue. TCU and U of H might because of Houston and the Metroplex with the Cowboys, because each of those major cities has a professional baseball, basketball, and football team.
And hockey, the Stars.
You bet.
No NHL team in Houston.
So to me, there's only so much money as a fan that I have that I can spend. I can only imagine that there are other sports fans out there that have to be selective with where they spend their dollars as well. You lived in San Francisco for a number of years. You tell me, am I wrong about this thinking that I have here?
No, I will say that, the seasons would come and go, and all these teams would have enough fans that they wouldn't be leaving town, the pro teams, and Cal and Stanford sometimes wouldn't have great crowds at football games, but, they survived and they had decent crowds at basketball. Stanford's women's team, coached by Tara Vanderveer, national champions 3 times. I will say at this moment, the Oakland A's, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area viewing audience for sure, the A's are in big trouble. They're the worst team in baseball, or second worst, and they're not drawing, and they're arguing over can they move someplace else within the city of Oakland, or are they going to Las Vegas or somewhere else? So we'll have to wait and see on that. But you're right. And now with inflation here, and the cost of these games, that sure, when you've got that many pro teams and the college teams, and women's sports have become so much more popular than what they were 40 years ago, the buck just goes so far.
Well, and let me throw something.
The buck stops here.
And let me throw something else out at you, folks. Back when USC in the early 2000s was winning at a high level,
yes,
there was no NFL team in LA at that time. Today, the LA Rams just won the Super Bowl. You've got the Super Bowl champion living in Los Angeles.
And you've got the Chargers.
So I can see why the Pac-12 is in trouble. Don't blame any school for bolting, minus the fact that if you are a purist like we are, the thing that you want to see are the traditional rivalries, even though I still don't care if A&M and UT ever play each other in football or any sport for that matter. But as somebody who loves college sports, I will never disagree with somebody like this guy who says, I have no dog in the fight, but I love watching these traditional rivalries, and I love seeing the pageantry that comes with college football. And it is pageantry. It is seeing the Trojan out there at midfield. It is watching and looking at the Baylor Bears and knowing that there's a real bear on campus there. It is seeing beaver.
I'm not so crazy about that. If the bear is still in the bear pit is what we called it when I was there. But go ahead.
But it is pageantry, and that's my whole point. I do feel that the big losers are those of us who love college sports and love the traditions, the pageantry, everything, all of the good that college sports represents, and to see how realignment is redefining those things now. It is very difficult as a fan to stand by and watch and see these things play out.
And the NFL certainly has its problems too, with troubles that you all know about, and and colleges are facing the same thing a lot. These conferences are, and you are so right. The Pac-12 is really in big trouble, and they could go after teams like Boise State, I guess would be a possibility. Fresno State is in California, so not too bad. Those two schools. Boise State's been a winner the last 5 or 6 years. The big win over Oklahoma a number of years ago in the bowl game.
Fiesta.
Right. So we'll just have to see, be watching closely to see what happens to that conference. But boy, they're shaking their heads right now.
So in that sense then, because one of the schools that was talked about adding to either the Pac-12 or another conference that excited me was UNLV. I think
Yes.
that would be a great addition. But again, in the Pac-12, you have the same problem. You've got the Las Vegas Raiders now, an NFL team. You've got the Las Vegas Aces, which is the WNBA team. And didn't you tell me that there's talk that one of the Major League Baseball teams may
Yes,
relocate?
the A's could go there, but also the Las Vegas hockey team from the first year it started only 3 or 4 years ago did very well, and so they're a big draw in Vegas. Of course, you have so many tourists coming in that I'm sure that helps. But you're right, and Nevada Las Vegas is a team that contends as a competitor. It's not up there with the Big Five or whatever they're called, but it is certainly a good school to go out and watch games, and could be a great acquisition by the Pac-12.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that is all we have for this week. We'll catch you next week. For Art Dlugach, I'm Jennifer Fierro, your broad podcaster. Again, go to TexasChalkTalk.com for all of your Highland Lake sports news, and please like, subscribe, and share the channel.